The moment Bubba Wallace went sideways at Talladega, social media had already picked its villain. Didn't matter that Ross Chastain threw the bump. Didn't matter that 26 cars is literally half the field. Didn't matter that drivers had been warning NASCAR about this exact situation for months. The internet had made up its mind before the smoke even cleared. And honestly, that reaction tells you everything about where NASCAR is right now. Because if you actually slow this thing down, and we are going to slow it all the way down today, what you find is not a simple story about one driver making one bad move. What you find is a wreck that had been building for 115 laps, a rules package that basically guaranteed this outcome, a broadcast that quietly edited out the most uncomfortable moment of the day, and a garage full of drivers pointing at a completely different problem than the one fans were screaming about on X. So today we are going through all of it. The crash sequence, the team radio versus the TV interview, the Fox clip that got trimmed before most people noticed, what Logano said, what Blaney said, what NASCAR is now actually considering changing because of what happened Sunday. By the end of this video, you are going to have a real opinion on this, not just a reaction, because this one deserves more than a hot take. Let's get into it. Before we even get to the crash, we need to talk about what NASCAR did going into this race, because it matters more than most people realized. NASCAR extended stage 1 to 98 laps, covering more than half the total race distance. The reason was straightforward. Fuel conservation strategies had been dominating superspeedway racing, turning these events into slow, calculated chess matches instead of the flat-out battles fans show up to watch. The thinking was that a longer first stage would force teams to actually race rather than save. And for 85 minutes, it seemed to work. Sort of. Drivers ran cautiously under green, managing fuel, staying disciplined, keeping their powder dry. Brian Priest won stage 1. Ford dominated the front. Bubba Wallace was in the mix but had nothing significant to show for it. The field was patient, almost too patient. Then stage 2 started, and everything changed at once. When that green flag dropped for stage 2, every driver went to full throttle simultaneously. The saving was over. The aggression ramped up immediately. The lanes got tighter. The pushes got harder. And this is the exact transition that drivers had been warning NASCAR about for months. The Superspeedway package takes a race from completely controlled to completely unstable in almost no time at all. That is a dangerous combination when 40 cars are stacked inches apart at nearly 200 miles per hour. The trap had been set during stage 1. Stage 2 was always going to spring it. It just took 10 laps. Lap 115, Bubba Wallace is leading. Ross Chastain delivers a strong bump from behind at the end of the back straight away. Wallace's number 23 Toyota is sent sideways toward the outside safer barrier, directly in front of Cole Custer. Custer has nowhere to go. He comes down the track trying to avoid the collision. The 3-wide pack behind them has no time to react. Turn 3 becomes a wall of smoke, debris, and wrecked race cars. That is the official sequence, confirmed by NASCAR.com. Now here is where the argument starts, because there are genuinely two ways to read that replay. The first reading says Ross Chastain's shove was simply too hard. The number 23 Toyota was already documented as being unstable under push throughout stage 1. The next-gen car turned what might have been a manageable bump in a previous generation into an instant catastrophe. Under this reading, Bubba was a victim of contact in a poorly designed package. The second reading says Wallace moved late to block, made an aggressive decision at the absolute worst moment, at the very front of a packed draft with nowhere for anyone behind him to go. Under this reading, the block was the mistake regardless of the contact. And both of those readings exist because the replay genuinely supports both. And that is exactly why this became one of the most debated wrecks of the season. Among the 26 cars collected were Ryan Blaney, Joey Logano, Kyle Larson, Brad Keselowski, Ty Gibbs, William Byron, Connor Zilisch, and Daniel Suarez. The race was red flagged at lap 116. The damage count nearly matched the fall 2024 record of 28 cars, also set at Talladega. Then came the reactions, and this is where the story gets genuinely complicated. The first thing Wallace said after the crash was on team radio. The quote that circulated immediately was, They wrecked us. Direct, unambiguous, pointing the finger straight at Chastain and the push from behind. But when Wallace got in front of the Fox Sports camera and spoke to pit reporter Jamie Little, the tone was completely different. He said, "We've got to figure out how to be pushed better, so I take responsibility on that. We'll have a good debrief and figure out what we can do to make our Toyotas a little bit better being pushed and maybe not have that happen." His official post-race statement from the Infield Care Center carried the same message. Got wrecked there, unfortunately. Our Xfinity Toyota Camry was a little unstable getting pushed, but manageable. Maybe that hard of a hit was too much, and so unfortunately, we wiped out a bunch of cars. On the surface, that looks like accountability, and in some ways it is. He did not deflect entirely. He did not go after Chastain publicly, but a significant portion of fans felt the framing was deliberately technical, leaning on the car and the package rather than simply saying the block failed, and the consequences were his to own. The team radio told one story, the television interview told another, and when those two things exist in the same news cycle, people notice. Then Fox made it worse. Before Wallace answered a single question about the crash, his very first words to Jamie Little were, "Well, I dozed off waiting on you so long." It was sarcastic, pointed, and delivered after a long delay before the interview began. Little apologized and acknowledged there was a lot happening. It was an uncomfortable moment and a real one. When Fox Sports later posted the interview clip to social media, that opening exchange was gone. The clip started mid-interview after the sarcastic complaint had been removed. Fans who had watched the broadcast live noticed immediately. This landed badly for two reasons. First, viewers were already frustrated with Fox. Complaints about commercial overload had been spreading on social media throughout the race, with fans arguing the broadcast felt like a commercial marathon with racing in between. Second, trimming the most uncomfortable moment from a driver interview and then posting the cleaner version looks like editorial management of a public figure's image, regardless of whether that was the actual intent. Sloppy social editing and deliberate spin look identical from the outside, and Fox gave viewers no reason to assume the charitable interpretation. The drivers who got caught in the wreck told a very different story than the one playing out on social media. Ryan Blaney was direct about it. "I feel like we all just got pinballing off each other there. It's not like there's any blame on anybody. It's what this thing is. We see each other. We all just kind of get bumping and banging. And one guy eventually gets turned with the car being as unstable as it is." Joey Logano went even further. His quote cut straight to the structural problem. "What do you want? Save fuel or crash? Pick one. That's what it feels like right now. You've got round bumpers on these things. The cars are unstable, and once everyone starts pushing and racing aggressive, it's going to happen. So until we fix that stuff, we're going to continue seeing it, unfortunately." Kyle Larson, who had nowhere to go when the accident began, noted the whiplash between the two stages. More saving than he expected in stage 1, then dramatically more intensity in stage 2, with no clear middle ground available to any driver. Not one of those drivers pointed at Bubba Wallace as the sole cause. Every single one of them pointed at the next-gen Superspeedway package, and NASCAR heard them. NASCAR VP of Race Communications, Mike Ford, confirmed publicly that the Talladega race generated enough feedback from the industry to warrant a direct response. A working group representing Chevrolet, Ford, and Toyota has been called to meet with NASCAR specifically about the Superspeedway rules package. Denny Hamlin, who lobbied for change on his podcast and texted NASCAR CEO Steve O'Donnell directly, proposed a shorter spoiler to reduce drag. According to Ford, a 3-inch spoiler cut would remove approximately 100 counts of drag and reduce downforce. The trade-off is speed, potentially pushing cars into the 210 miles per hour range, which raises immediate safety concerns. Ford acknowledged that restrictor plates existed for exactly that reason. No confirmed in-season changes have been announced. A 2027 preseason test at Daytona is already on the schedule for evaluating potential adjustments. The painful irony in all of this is that the 98-lap Stage 1, specifically designed to reduce fuel saving, only delayed the chaos. The moment Stage 2 went green, it took 10 laps for the biggest wreck of the season to happen. Meanwhile, Carson Hocevar won the race. He beat Chris Buescher by 0.114 seconds in a 3-lap shootout, with drafting help from Alex Bowman's number 48 Chevrolet. It was his first career Cup Series victory in his 91st start. His celebration, hanging out the window of a moving race car, slamming nose first into the wall for a burnout, climbing onto the roof, was called the coolest celebration I've ever seen by new NASCAR CEO Steve O'Donnell. On the same day, Tyler Reddick, the The Cup Series points leader with 5 wins in the season's first 9 races, announced a multi-year contract extension with 23XY Racing. 2 enormous stories, almost completely buried under the wreck and the controversy surrounding it. So where does this all land? Bubba Wallace was at the center of the crash. He was leading, he was making decisions at the front of the draft, and his car became the wall that 26 others ran into. Ross Chastain's bump initiated the physical sequence. The number 23 Toyota was documented as unstable under push. The next-gen Superspeedway package converted a single bad push into the largest wreck of the season, and the 98-lap Stage 1 created the exact conditions that made Stage 2 inevitable. What is not fair is reducing all of that to one driver, one moment, one bad decision. What is legitimate criticism is that Wallace's public framing stayed technical when some fans needed it to be personal. And what Fox did, trimming the opening of that interview before posting it, was an editorial failure that deserved the scrutiny it received. The internet wanted a villain. The garage identified a system problem. After Talladega 2026, both of those conversations are louder than they have ever been, and neither one is finished.